A key bantamweight bout goes down this Saturday in San Antonio, and one that very well could determine the next title challenger at 135 pounds, or perhaps not. Hello, everybody. My name is Danny Segura, and welcome to MMA Junkie's UFC on ESPN 43 or UFC on UFC on San Antonio, right? I mean, I can't even keep up with these names. UFC Fight Night, whatever you want to call it. Preview show. I'm here with Oscar Willis from the Mac Life. You know him.
Hello.
Also, amateur fighter, right? Is that a title now?
Undefeated amateur fighter.
Undefeated amateur fighter. Get in, get rich, get out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Oscar. So let's start with the top and then work our way down.
Sure.
This fight, as I mentioned, could determine the number one contender at 135 pounds. Maybe not. How do you feel about that?
No, it won't. Obviously, they got the Aljamain Sterling Henry Cejudo fight coming up, but I think they would really love to get a Sean O'Malley title fight in there somewhere. Now, you know, if Aljamain and Henry go through a war or something like that, they're going to take a while to come back, and then so I wonder if the UFC will look to put the winner of this versus Sean O'Malley to really determine the number one contender. So, especially if it's Cheeto, I think the rematch will have value, and I suspect that's where they'll go with it. But in terms of an outward title shot, I mean, crazy things happen, but no, I won't suspect so.
Yeah. I mean, certainly Corey Sandhagen only has one win back on his sales since losing to Peter Yan, but Chito Vera is quite on a streak here.
Yeah.
You don't think if he does something crazy, something viral, some crazy KO, we saw what a post-fight interview did for Nate Diaz back in 2016. Yeah. You don't think he has a chance here to maybe recreate magic and make something happen then?
Out of the two of them, he's the one I think could get it.
Yeah.
I just think they love Sean O'Malley, you know, and that's not to take anything away from Cheeto. I think even his media day appearance, he seemed to get it, that he understands, like, hey, look, this sport works in mysterious ways. The UFC kind of do what they want. I believe a fight between him and Sean would actually be really big right now.
Yeah.
So I think they'll probably do that. But yeah, even like, you know, he did something spectacular. You know, he booted Dom Cruz in the face, and that was pretty spectacular. And then, you know, it's just he's still lacking that. It's a little bit like Bilal Muhammad at welterweight. Like, he's putting on these crazy performances. It's just lacking that one signature win right now. O'Malley would be that one.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he does have a win over him. I don't know, maybe online people will debate that, but
a win over him now,
yeah,
I mean.
Yeah, for sure. And let's talk about Corey Sandhagen. He enters the fight, as I said, on a one-fight win streak. Prior to that, he had lost to Peter Yan. And it seems like there's kind of I don't want to say there's a pattern just yet, but, you know, his losses have come to a certain caliber of opponent. How important is this fight for him? Because it feels like if he can't get past Chito, we're kind of seeing a trend here on the type of fighters he cannot get through, right? TJ Dillashaw, Peter Yan, sort of that level.
Yeah. I think if he can't get a win, and not to put pressure on the guy because he's obviously very good and he's so fun to watch, but I think if he can't win on Saturday, you're right, it sort of shows where his ceiling might be.
Yeah.
That said, like, the fight itself is interesting. You know, he's so active and Cheeto is not. It's a winnable fight for him. But even if he does beat Cheeto, it's hard that, despite the run he's on, Cheeto's not really at that level considered in the eyes of the public yet. So if Corey wins, does that prove he's at that elite level? Not necessarily. It proves that he's still very, very good, but we don't know about his elite level capabilities yet. But it's intriguing.
Yeah. If you were a betting man, I'm not talking about next, but just in the future, the winner of this fight ends up fighting for the belt sometime in 2023.
I believe Cheeto would, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I think if Cheeto wins this... And it's also funny, right, because his KOs are so spectacular, and I feel like now he's getting more and more comfortable. I know he's been around forever, but he seems just every time he's like more and more chilled out and well-spoken and stuff. I suspect that the fans are starting to get behind him in a way they haven't up to now, you know. So I really saw a big spike after that Dominic Cruz fight in his public interest, and I think if he gets another crazy knockout here, people will start wanting to see him fight for the title.
Yeah, I know two very different characters, but he's kind of like the Shafkat in a way of 170, right? Like, all the hardcores are kind of rooting for him, and they really appreciate Cheeto and obviously the violence that he dishes out. I mean, who's not a fan, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just really cool. He's just a really cool dude.
Yeah, just a cool dude that knocks out people, I mean, what can you hate about that, for sure? All right, official pick for that fight. Very close, right? Like, the odds are keep going back and forth between the week. How do you see this one going?
It's a tricky one, right? Because, like I pointed to their activity, I think, you know, it seems like these guys can have a lot of success pushing the pace on Cheeto, and essentially if he doesn't get them with that one big shot, they would win the fight. But he gets them with that one big shot. I'm a believer in momentum, and I think there's starting to become a little bit of an aura about Cheeto that maybe he's a little bit inevitable. about getting that title shot. So I'm going to lean towards him, but it wouldn't surprise me if Corey actually put on a bit of a showcase and Cheeto's inactivity led to him almost being dominated.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Chito Herrera as well. Again, very close. I can see it going either way. I just think he's more dangerous with submissions. He's more dangerous with power. But certainly, I can see a scenario where Corey Sandhagen outpoints him. Maybe develops quite an early lead, and then down the line, the fight gets more even. But certainly a huge fight for the bantamweight division. Very, very interesting bout. Let's move into the co-main event. Holly Holm, former champion, boxing Hall of Famer, returns. She's taking Yana Santos. A return of the champion, a return of a former champion, a return of a very big name in the division. Do you just feel like, what's her role here, right? Because she's 41 years old, clearly looks in shape, clearly still has the hunger, but is she going to become sort of an elite gatekeeper that can be put into like a big card because she's got that name? Or do you still see perhaps a title run in her?
Well, it's not like that division is like super rich with contenders necessarily,
true.
And then I think because of Holly's name value, they never shy away from putting her in a main event or anything. So you never know. Like we just saw Valentina lose her title. Amanda lost to Juliana, even though she got it back. Like let's say Juliana won that rematch, Holly Holm's getting a title shot. So that division is as such that she's never that far away, and she got a 6-fight deal. She does strike me as the sort of person who's not here to just make up the numbers. So I'm sure she thinks she's going to fight for another title. But we'll see. It's an interesting one. It's kind of both of these women in the co-main have like kind of fought everyone.
Yeah.
So it's like, we better check each other off as well. Like we better fight each other, and then the next one will fight Misha or something like that. It's an interesting spot she's in, but the right victory at the right time. She'll be right there.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to ask you the same thing I asked you for the main event. I mean, it kind of seems a little crazy, but the UFC has yet to book a title fight for 135 pounds in the female side. Would it be too crazy that if Holly Holm gets a huge win on an ESPN card, big name, they need big fights? I mean, certainly, although maybe on a merit base it's not there, she's certainly probably the biggest fight for Amanda at this point, right?
I would say yes, except for the head kick she lost to Amanda by. It's a very definitive vision, and it's not, with all the respect to her, it's not like Holly's like gone on and shown like massive leaps since that fight. That's like, the rematch will definitely be different, So I don't know if the UFC will pull the trigger on that necessarily. I'm kind of waiting to see what happens with Amanda, but there's also Amanda's still technically a featherweight champion. Do it at featherweight.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it'd be first time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and for Yana Santos, I mean, she's had some big fights before. She fought Chris Cyborg, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of a similar situation with Corey Sandhagen, right? She lingers around the top 5. Very, very good fighter, but still yet to make that leap. Easily the biggest win of her career if she were to defeat Holly Holm, right? Like, could we be looking at a future title contender here?
Yeah, and like she fought Cyborg, but it didn't really go very well for her.
No.
But I think she's another one where I will give Yana credit that her game has improved. She's gotten a lot stronger. She's gotten a lot better in the clinch since she fought Cyborg. So she has improved. And I can actually see with that progression, like she keeps picking. She's a bit more quiet than some of the other people, right? So she's going to be another one where it takes them a while to give her a title shot. But if she just keeps picking up the victories as and when she needs them, eventually, it's not, again, that division like needs contenders.
Yeah, for sure. Besides the main and co-main event, what other fights would you like to highlight that you're looking forward to in this card?
Nate the Train, baby.
Yeah.
Nate Landwehr is a psychopath, and I enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, I love that quote. If I don't lose, I'm probably going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
I live my life by
makes
that,
sense.
Danny.
Yeah,
I live my life by that.
As long as you don't lose, like,
yeah,
you could win.
I mean, potentially. You can't really say for sure, but I would hope that I would possibly get close to winning, yeah.
Right, yeah, of course. Yeah, you can't miss his fight. Unfortunately, I was really looking forward to Alex Caceres' fight, but at least he got a replacement opponent. We had 2 other fights on this card fall through. Just a pretty good card here. I will highlight Andrea Lee versus Macy Barber.
Sure.
Macy Barber fought Alexa Grasso, lost to Alexa Grasso. She, not to make excuses, but she went out there and actually said it. Yeah, it was because of my knee injury. I was coming off a major knee surgery, and then against Roxanne Modafferi, my knee blew out. So she's kind of like saying, like, hey, look, if it wasn't for this knee, I'd still be undefeated. 4-0 since. Looking good in the division. She's still young. Andrea Lee's a good opponent. Could this potentially be a rematch with Alexa Grasso? Of course, we'll see what happens with Valentina down the line. But even no matter what happens, it seems like Valentina, is on her way out, just given her age, right? Like,
well, it's funny that this card, like those 3 fights we've spoken about, it's always a bit like the UFC likes this person, so like, they like Macy Barber.
Yeah,
Dana's not really ever hid that. I even think when she lost to Alexa, he spent the post-fight press conference talking about how much of a stud Macy was. So she's never going to be far away, man. I do think Erin Blanchfield is a bit of a problem for her.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's like kind of the new Macy in a way, you know, sort of in a way. So
The future.
yeah.
No
So
pun intended.
I think that's a collision that will probably have to happen before a title shot. But
Interesting.
that division's as interesting as it's been for a while.
Yeah, for sure. She's certainly a key player, and she's, you know, to her credit, yeah, she had that knee injury, but since, she's been looking good, and she's still young, so.
Oh, I mean, she's a stud,
Yeah.
and I'm going to sound like Dana now, but she's a savage as well. You know, so I think it's a good matchup for her, and I think you know, she gets it. I think since she fought Roxanne, she's kind of taken a bit step back in some of her like confident claims, but that's probably good too. You know, I think she seems a little bit more like confident in her position rather than like overconfident, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and she's still crazy young. I
Yeah.
mean, so she's got years in this promotion. I'm sure she just signed a new deal as well. So we'll see what the future holds for her. No pun intended here. All right, Oscar, well, I appreciate the time.
That's all right.
Looking forward to the fights. And, yeah, keep it locked here to MMA Junkie for all news, videos, interviews, whatever you need of Fight Week.